Hello there once again, and welcome to my channel. This is Eds. I'm a virtual assistant. I'm going to talk about something that, well, of course, might be of good help or might be of help to anyone. Well, today I just finished my shift and I just completed sending my end of day report to my client. Before I end my shift, I just want to make this video for everyone. Okay, so for today, I'll be talking about how to win a job interview, especially for those who are aspiring to become a virtual assistant. Well, I know for a fact that everyone, of course, gets nervous when we get interviewed by an employer or by a staff of the human resource department. Um, for me, for once and for many instances in my interviews, up until now, of course, I still have that nervous feeling about, you still get nervous whenever you hear about the word interview and thinking about what to answer, how you will answer the questions. Do I know how to answer? Well, of course, those are the questions that keeps lingering whenever you um, you think of that interview process in your job application. Well, of course, everyone gets nervous about it. It's just normal, but did you know that, of course, um, these feelings of getting nervous, worried about getting a job interview can actually be controlled or can actually, well, of course, be minimized. And we cannot remove the fact that we won't feel any nervousness during the interview process. But the thing in there is that we are able to control ourselves and control our mind when especially answering those critical questions and tricky questions during the interview process. Um, it doesn't actually matter if you get nervous or not during the interview, but what matters is that how you can actually answer those questions. Well, number one, of course, everyone would agree that the first thing to do in order to have a very successful job interview is, of course, to prepare. To prepare yourself, number one, yourself. You have to be very knowledgeable about the job description. You have to read about the job description. What is it? What are the things to do or required for you to do? Most likely and most commonly, actually, whenever we apply for a job, the first things we have to think or we have to check is, of course, the job interview. What are you going to do? Do I really know this job or do I really know how to do it? Well, of course, you don't want to put yourself in a situation like you will be applying for a job and you really are not good with that or not doesn't have any knowledge at all. Like, for example, I'm a virtual assistant, and then suddenly I would be applying for a carpentry job, which I really don't have so much idea about it. And then I'll just go out there and, you know, do the carpentry job, and my work experience is really on virtual assistant. Well, definitely I wouldn't be good at it. I wouldn't excel at it, right? So the first things we have to do is to prepare ourselves by checking on the job descriptions, knowing what the company does or who is the company you're applying for. You must be knowledgeable about um, what is their goal, what do they do, what are their mission and vision. Okay, so number one thing is knowing the mission and vision of a company. So just a quick tip and knowledge about for me uh that's the number one thing you should know about a company. What's their mission and what's their vision? Because the mission and vision of a company is actually the bible of the company. They actually work, um do plan, um, implement things based on their mission and their vision. So if you, for once, you're applying or aspiring for a certain company, you must uh, that is the first thing you want to know about, knowing the mission and vision, because that is how you are able to align yourself about the company. And knowing the mission and vision of the company helps you later able to answer questions that are thrown to you during the interview, and uh, those answers that you'll be doing are aligned to the mission and vision of the company, and that is very, very important. All right, later on I'll discuss more about that. So number one thing, you must be able to prepare yourself, and number two, so part of that preparation, you don't only prepare yourself, of course, but you prepare the workplace environment where you do the interview. I'm talking here about interview for a virtual assistant or for interview for a remote job, right? So I'm talking about interviews that will actually happen virtually. And so part of that preparation is what I'm saying is that you must be able to prepare your workplace environment, your equipment, um, your internet, right? So make sure that when you have that interview virtually, you must be able to have a good background. For me, I have in here my wall as a white one, but you can actually see the door at the back. It's just blurred, but I have a place in here that whenever I have a job interview, it's a purely white background, and so it actually a good thing to have that because that's actually um, most commonly being required by most agencies that initiates job interview. So you must at least have a white background in your place, in your house, where you will be doing the interview, right? So what are the other devices that we need to prepare? Of course, your computer. You must make sure that your computer is working very well. Your laptop or desktop whatsoever. You must make sure that your computer have the softwares needed for online interviews or for online meetings. Well, of course, we're very much familiar about the Zoom and about Google Meet already, which are the most common softwares that are being used today to conduct job interviews. So you might want as well to check on that and make sure that you have those kinds of softwares. And also another thing is that your camera. You must make sure that you have a camera. You might want, if you're going to buy a camera, you might want as well to buy a camera with at least around 720 resolution and up, because lower that 720, especially if you'll be doing the interview at nighttime, your face will look like very glittered, very saturated. It's not that good at all. And in a virtual interview, one of the asset that we can actually offer to the company is that, of course, when they conduct an interview with you and they saw your camera is around 720 resolution and up, and they have the impression that you are really prepared, and they have the impression that you really have the equipment and that you are really prepared to do a virtual job. So you might want as well to impress your interviewer by your camera, right? So maybe that's one of the few things and few tips that I can actually give you. But that's not required if, for example, you really don't have that 720 and up camera. If what camera, any camera that you have in there, of course, any webcam that you have that you have in your workplace that actually already um, is good enough for the interview. But as recommended, that's what I said a while back. So 720 and up. And if you don't have actually a web camera, and if the company allows you to use your mobile phone for the interview, which I bet not most companies doesn't like to conduct an interview with you using your phone, right? So Some companies might allow that as well, but not all of them. What's the reason why companies wants to do the interview in front of your own computer or in front of your workstation is that because that is where they can actually gauge how your equipment works. So if you have a very good headset, your audio is very clear enough at their end. It means that your devices for working virtually are conditioned and are in good condition as well. So most companies actually requires you to do the job interview in front of your computer, in front of your own workstation when you will be working. The next part of that, aside from preparing yourself, you must make sure that you have the proper knowledge. You are prepared mentally to do the interview. You must be prepared, not just physically, not just with your equipment, but of course, must also be prepared psychologically. Having the interview with some things in mind, having the interview with some worries in mind, actually affects how you do the interview. So if you think that the company or the job position is a very very important position for you, and you really need to get that interview, you really need to hop on the interview. You must make sure that physiologically, psychologically, you are prepared because that affects how you answer. And so that's one of the few things that you must be doing, of course, before the interview. Another thing before the interview, uh, um, what you need to do is, of course, read a lot, be knowledgeable about just like what I've said a while back, be knowledgeable about the job description, about the company, what does the company do, all right? So the job description tells you also what are the tasks at hand or what are the responsibilities, and you must know that. Um, uh, Job descriptions are actually your guide during the interview process, right? So you must, if possible, you must have that printed and have it in front of your computer during the interview, or you take a screenshot of it and make sure to open it in your computer during the job interview. Because why? I'm going to tell that about that later on, how you why it's important to have that. So also with aside from the job interview, you must know about the company or what's the address of the company. That's number one, right? So there was one time I had a job interview. I knew and I read about the company. I know what's the company name, what's the niche, what they do. And then suddenly the job interviewer actually asks me, so do you actually know where our headquarters is located? Oh, okay. So I think I didn't know about where the company is located, or where is the headquarters. Because why? Of course, you must know where is the headquarters or what is the location of the company, because geographically that is where you're going to work at, even though you're located virtually. But when you work with a company, you must be very knowledgeable about the place, the location where the company at working, right? So if you're working for a real estate or a realtor, you must know where are the places that they actually market, right? So their marketplace. You must know what state, what provinces, what municipalities are they actually serving. Because later on, when you work with them, you will be dealing with those places too. So part of that, you must know where is the location of the company, what's their name, what's their niche, what's their business, what they do. Another thing about job interviews is that aside from the job description that you need to align all of your answers with, you must also know the mission and vision of the company. What's your goal here is all of your answers during the interview are aligned to the mission and vision of the company. But of course, this is one thing I would tell you. You're not just going to align your answer, of course, to the mission and vision of the company because you want to impress the company. Of course, you must also be genuine. You must also be honest about your feelings. Interviewers, even though it's virtually being done, interviewers can still see how sincere are you, right? So that's why all of your answers should be all sincere. Well then, so I think those are some just few tips that I can actually give whenever doing some interviews. I hope it helped a lot. Of course, especially for those who are starting or planning to to become a virtual assistant first time. I really, really encourage you to practice yourself in front of the computer. If you have your camera, try to do it. It's like you're simulating a job interview. So that helps a lot. So practice how you answer, uh, talk to yourself, or maybe ask your brother or someone else to throw you some questions. Ask other people to might as well prepare some questions and then ask you, and then you answer it. All right, so that's how you actually practice. So really practice makes perfect, and before the interview you might want to do some mock interview, a mock interview or a simulation. All right, so I hope I was able to give some idea about um, how to be able to win a job interview, especially virtually. And for those who are actually aspiring to become a virtual assistant, I wish you all good luck and you can actually do that. All right, so until here again, this is as your virtual assistant signing off for today. I just finished my shift and have a great weekend, everyone.